90 Day Fiancé The Other Way didn't feature Jenny Slatten and Sumit Singh in its latest episode, which immediately caught the attention of longtime viewers who were used to seeing the couple's ongoing struggles take center stage. Their absence felt noticeable because their storyline has been heavily focused on one major goal: making their cafe business work so they can finally gain independence and leave Sumit's parents' home. With no update this week, fans were left waiting once again for answers about whether that plan is actually moving forward or quietly falling apart. The cafe has been framed as Jenny and Sumit's ultimate solution, the one idea that could solve years of tension, cultural conflict, and emotional strain. Living under Sumit's parents' roof has been a constant source of discomfort, particularly for Jenny, who has repeatedly expressed how difficult it is to adjust to the expectations and lack of privacy that come with a joint family household. For her, the cafe represents freedom, stability, and a chance to finally live life on her own terms with her husband. Because of that, viewers have naturally been curious about how the business is doing now, especially in 2025. While upcoming episodes of 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way will stretch into the 2026 TV schedule, it's important to remember that TLC films these shows long before they air. This time gap often creates a strange disconnect between what viewers see on television and what is actually happening in real life. Over the years, fans of the franchise have learned to investigate storylines on their own, using social media, local information, and online communities to uncover updates that the show hasn't revealed yet. In this case, Reddit once again became the place where curious viewers pieced together the current status of Jenny and Sumit's cafe. A 90 Day Fiancé fan who decided to look into the cafe's location shared information that raised immediate red flags. According to their findings, a recent photo taken just 2 months ago of a nearby pharmacy showed that the cafe was no longer there. The space that once appeared on the show seemed empty, repurposed, or simply no longer operating as a business. Whether the cafe closed permanently or moved to another location remains unclear, but one thing is certain: it is no longer running where viewers last saw it on 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way. For many fans, this discovery didn't come as a shock. From the very beginning, the cafe appeared to struggle with problems that went beyond the usual challenges of starting a small business. The physical location itself seemed poorly prepared for a food service operation. It was revealed that the only source of running water came from the employee bathroom, a detail that alarmed viewers and raised serious concerns about hygiene, safety, and overall feasibility. A cafe without proper water access is already at a disadvantage, and this issue alone made many question whether the business was ever set up for success. Then there was the issue of equipment. The couple rented a coffee machine, but Jenny didn't know how to operate it. Watching her struggle with basic tasks only reinforced the idea that there was little preparation behind the scenes. Running a cafe requires training, planning, and confidence, especially when it comes to something as central as making coffee. The lack of readiness made the entire operation feel rushed and unprofessional, as if the business was put together more for cameras than for long-term survival. Another moment that drew criticism was Jenny's difficulty handling Indian currency and making correct change. While this might seem like a minor issue on its own, many viewers found it frustrating given how long Jenny has lived in India. For years, fans have commented on her apparent struggle to adapt fully to the culture, customs, and everyday realities of life there. The cafe storyline only intensified those criticisms, making some viewers feel that Jenny still approaches life in India as an outsider, rather than someone who has fully embraced her surroundings. Because of all these issues, some fans admitted that it wasn't hard to see why Sumit's parents were so strongly opposed to the relationship for such a long time. While their treatment of Jenny has often been harsh, controlling, and emotionally exhausting to watch, the ongoing concerns about financial stability, independence, and cultural adjustment give context to their fears. From their perspective, Jenny and Sumit's inability to stand on their own has always been a major problem, and the cafe's struggles seem to confirm those doubts. The apparent closure of the cafe has now led many viewers to question whether the business was ever meant to succeed. Some believe it may have been little more than a storyline created for 90 Day Fiancé the other way, designed to give the couple something to do besides sitting in Sumit's parents' house and arguing episode after episode. Over the years, several cast members across the franchise have accused the show of exaggerating or even fabricating storylines for the sake of drama, so the idea that the cafe was partly staged doesn't seem far-fetched to longtime fans. Looking at the situation logically, the cafe never appeared to be a realistic path to financial independence. The entire family seemed to be involved in running it, yet there was never a clear explanation of how profits would be divided or how Jenny and Sumit would personally benefit. If everyone is working together without a clear business structure, it's difficult to see how the couple could earn enough money to move out and support themselves. When a storyline consistently ignores basic common sense, viewers often assume that entertainment, not realism, is the main goal. Part of me almost hopes the cafe storyline was exaggerated or staged, because if it was truly real, its failure would be devastating for Jenny and Sumit. After years of fighting for their relationship, struggling against family opposition, and trying to prove they can make it on their own, another failure would be emotionally crushing. It would force them to confront the reality that they still can't escape living under his parents' roof and must once again rethink their future. At the same time, it's worth remembering that the joint family system is extremely common in India, and many couples live this way without major issues. If Jenny and Sumit are now on better terms with his parents, one could argue that living together isn't necessarily a problem. The real issue may not be the living arrangement itself, but whether Jenny can ever truly feel comfortable and fulfilled within that system. 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way did not include Jenny Slatin and Sumit Singh in its most recent episode, and their absence was immediately noticed by longtime viewers who were accustomed to seeing the couple's complicated journey take up significant screen time. Over the years, Jenny and Sumit's story has consistently revolved around emotional struggles, family conflict, and their ongoing effort to build a stable life together. Because of this, not seeing them appear felt unusual, especially since their storyline has recently been centered on one critical objective: making their cafe business successful so they can finally gain independence and move out of Sumit's parents' home. With no mention or update in this episode, fans were once again left waiting, unsure whether the plan is progressing behind the scenes or slowly unraveling. The cafe has been presented as Jenny and Sumit's ultimate solution, the one opportunity that could finally resolve years of tension, cultural clashes, and emotional strain. Living under Sumit's parents' roof has long been a source of discomfort, particularly for Jenny. She has openly spoken about how difficult it is for her to adapt to the expectations, restrictions, and lack of privacy that come with living in a traditional joint family household. For Jenny, the cafe represents far more than a business venture. It symbolizes independence, personal freedom, and the chance to live life on her own terms alongside her husband, without constant judgment or interference. Because so much hope has been placed on this plan, viewers have naturally become curious about how the business is actually doing now, especially as time has moved into 2025. Although future episodes of 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way will continue into the 2026 television schedule, it's important to remember that TLC films these spin-offs well in advance. This delay between filming and airing often creates a disconnect between what viewers are watching on television and what is currently happening in real life. Over time, fans of the franchise have learned to investigate storylines on their own, turning to social media platforms, online forums, and local information to uncover updates the show hasn't yet revealed. In this situation, Reddit once again became the place where curious fans began piecing together clues about the real status of Jenny and Sumit's cafe. One 90 Day Fiancé fan who decided to look deeper into the cafe's location shared information that immediately raised concerns. According to their findings, a photo taken just 2 months ago of a nearby pharmacy showed that the cafe was no longer there. The space that once appeared on the show seemed to be empty, repurposed, or no longer operating as a cafe at all. While it remains unclear whether the business closed permanently or relocated to a different spot, one fact is clear. The cafe is no longer running at the location shown on 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way. For many viewers, this discovery came as little surprise. From the very start, the cafe appeared to struggle with issues that went far beyond the normal challenges of opening a small business. The physical space itself seemed poorly equipped for a food service operation. It was revealed during the show that the only source of running water came from the employee bathroom, a detail that alarmed viewers and raised serious questions about cleanliness, safety, and overall practicality. A cafe without proper water access is already at a significant disadvantage, and this issue alone made many people doubt whether the business had been properly planned. There were also major concerns surrounding equipment and preparation. The couple rented a coffee machine, yet Jenny didn't know how to use it. Watching her struggle with such a basic and essential task only reinforced the idea that there was very little preparation behind the scenes. Running a cafe requires training, organization, and confidence, particularly when coffee is a central part of the business. The lack of readiness made the entire operation feel rushed and unpolished, as if it were created quickly for television rather than built for long-term success. Another moment that drew criticism from viewers involved Jenny's difficulty handling Indian currency and giving correct change. While this might seem like a small issue on its own, many fans found it frustrating given how long Jenny has lived in India. For years, viewers have pointed out her ongoing struggle to fully adapt to Indian culture, customs, and everyday life. The cafe storyline only intensified these criticisms, making some feel that Jenny still approaches life in India as an outsider instead of someone who has fully adjusted to her environment. Because of these repeated issues, some fans admitted that it became easier to understand why Sumit's parents were so strongly opposed to the relationship for so long. Although their treatment of Jenny has often been harsh, controlling, and emotionally draining to watch, the ongoing concerns about financial stability, independence, and cultural adjustment provide context for their fears. From their perspective, Jenny and Sumit's continued reliance on the family and inability to fully stand on their own has always been a major concern, and the cafe's struggles appeared to confirm those doubts. The apparent closure of the cafe has now led many viewers to question whether the business was ever meant to succeed. Some believe it may have been little more than a storyline created for 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way, meant to give Jenny and Sumit something to do besides remaining in Sumit's parents' house and arguing throughout the season. Over the years, multiple cast members from the franchise have accused the show of exaggerating or even staging storylines for dramatic effect, so the idea that the cafe was partly manufactured for entertainment doesn't seem unrealistic to longtime fans. From a practical standpoint, the cafe never truly appeared to be a solid path toward financial independence. The entire family seemed involved in running the business, yet there was never a clear explanation of how profits would be shared or how Jenny and Sumit would personally benefit. If everyone is working together without a defined structure, it becomes difficult to see how the couple could earn enough money to support themselves and move out. When a storyline consistently ignores basic logic and common sense, viewers often assume that entertainment value has taken priority over realism. Part of me almost hopes the cafe storyline was exaggerated or staged, because if it was genuinely real, its failure would be devastating for Jenny and Sumit. After years of fighting for their relationship, facing intense family opposition, and trying to prove they can build a life together, another failure would be emotionally crushing. It would force them to confront the reality that they still cannot escape living under his parents' roof and must once again rethink their future plans. At the same time, it's important to remember that the joint family system is extremely common in India, and many couples live this way without major problems. If Jenny and Sumit are now on better terms with his parents, one could argue that living together isn't necessarily the issue. The real question may be whether Jenny can ever truly feel comfortable, independent, and fulfilled within that system. 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way's latest episode didn't feature Jenny and Sumit, but we have an update on their cafe.
90 Day Fiancé The Other Way didn't feature Jenny and Sumit Singh this week, so we'll have to wait another week for more hijinks involving their cafe business. It's the couple's grand plan, which they hope will get them out of his parents' house and back on their own. It has had me curious about how it was doing in 2025. While future episodes of 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way will bleed into the 2026 TV schedule, the franchise films these 90 Day Fiancé spin-offs well in advance. This usually allows fans to do a little digging on storylines as they play out on television, and thanks to Reddit, we know the status of Jenny and Sumit's cafe. Jenny and Sumit's cafe has seemingly closed. A 90 Day Fiancé fan did some investigating into Jenny and Sumit's family cafe and found a photo of the nearby pharmacy taken 2 months ago. Surprise, it looks as though Sumit and Jenny's cafe is no longer in business. Either that or it's moved to a new location. In any case, it's no longer where it was on 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way. I'm sure this isn't much of a surprise to anyone watching, considering the litany of problems the business has had since its inception. The space only had running water from the employee toilet, rented a coffee machine Jenny didn't know how to run, and apparently she doesn't know how to count change in the country either. I'd complain more about that, but I've already spent enough time prior to this about how Jenny doesn't acclimate to India's culture despite having lived there for years. Sometimes it isn't hard to understand why his parents disliked their relationship for so long. Was the cafe just a stunt for the show? The revelation has led fans to suspect that the entire cafe was just a stunt for 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way, and just a way to have them do something other than sit in his parents' house and argue all season. 90 Day cast members have accused the series of faking storylines in the past, but is this one of them? I can only speculate, but I certainly agree that it felt like a business that was doomed to fail from the moment the location was chosen. It also didn't make any sense to me how Sumit and Jenny were supposed to profit off a restaurant that the entire family was working at. Typically, when it seems like everything in the storyline is unfolding without anyone stopping to use common sense, a logical explanation would be that it was done solely for entertainment. I would almost hope the storyline was fake for Jenny and Sumit's sake, because otherwise it would be devastating for them to fail with the business and realize they need to find another way to move out from under his parents' roof and back into their own place. That said, the joint family system is pretty common in India, and if they're on good terms with his parents, then what's the problem in living together?